ADHD was debilitating until I actually figured out how I can turn it into a superpower and truly change my life. And when that happened, it's been the greatest gift.
Can't be contained.
That's what I'm talking about. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Can't Be Contained podcast. All right, this crazy episode on ADHD, which I'm so excited to get into this with you. I know a lot of you, whenever I mention ADHD or whenever I talk about it on Instagram, I just get many of you saying, oh my God, me too. And so I'm super excited to share my story around ADHD. I'm super excited to share some of the things that have worked so well in my life in order to work with this. I don't think it's bad. I think it's amazing. I honestly consider it one of my superpowers. But before I realized I had it and before I realized how to manage it, it was so intense. So I'm super excited to dive into it with you today. This episode is powered by Pause Breathwork. Our 6-month journey to turn our students into masterful trauma-informed breathwork facilitators is an absolutely extraordinary journey for somebody who has always known that they've wanted to be a healer, that they've wanted to be a coach. I really believe that people come to this planet and they already know that they're meant to help people. They already know that they're meant to raise the consciousness of the planet. And sometimes life doesn't reflect that back to certain people. And so maybe you're someone listening who what you're doing for work or what you're doing for money is so opposite of that. Maybe you're working a corporate job, working at State Farm Insurance 9 to 5. I don't know. You're doing a thing and your soul is like, there's something better than this. But maybe your mind is like, but it doesn't make sense. And so I'm speaking to you guys, the ones who know deep in your soul, deep in your heart that you are made for more. This 6-month facilitator journey will turn you into just an absolutely extraordinary healer. This program is designed for 2 types of people. Number 1, you are already a coach, you're already a healer, you're already a facilitator, and you want to take your clients deeper by offering a somatic approach to their session. So really using the energy of the body, really using the body as the instrument for transformation. Or you are an aspiring coach. You've always been the one that people go to for advice. You are just a natural, but maybe you haven't made money doing it yet, or maybe you haven't taken it seriously. So if you fall in either of those 2 places, I would invite you to feel into it. And if becoming a breathwork facilitator feels like an exciting next step for you, I'll put the link in the show notes of this podcast, or you can head to pausebreathwork.com/facilitator. That's pausebreathwork.com/facilitator. Let the team know you heard about it on the Can't Be Contained podcast, and you'll get $1,000 off. All right, let's dive in. So ADHD. Okay, so for as long as I can remember, I would just like self-diagnose myself. Like, I've got ADHD. I can't pay attention. And I was so bad in school, you guys. Like, really bad in school. Like, not only was I not interested in the subject material, but I couldn't sit still. And so I would be constantly getting in trouble. I would be constantly, like, the amount of times where the teacher would be like, Samantha, can you go sit in the hallway? You know, like the term class clown, like I was just the class clown because I would just get bored and I would do silly things and make people laugh and I would pull pranks and I just couldn't sit still. And I remember talking to my dad about this at our family dinner. We had family dinner every single night, phones away, Simpsons were off. Actually, we were never even allowed to watch The Simpsons. That's a story for another day. But I remember my dad saying, don't worry about that. Don't worry about school. The A students will end up working for the C students. And something in that moment was like, oh, yes, okay. And so it was this permissioning of, I don't have to conform to the school system. And I think for many people who have ADHD, school was really freaking hard. Really, really hard. I know for myself and Eric, school kind of failed us. We didn't we don't learn in the way that the school system is set up. We weren't interested in the subject material. It just like was such a miss for both of us. I guess that's why we both became entrepreneurs, because we're like, there's another way to do things. But I just remember never being able to really focus unless it was something I was so interested in. I couldn't focus on it. There was like a lot of forgetfulness. I really sucked with tests and having to like retain information and then regurgitate information. There was this constant feeling like something is not working in my brain. And so that started in school. And then I kind of just like held that narrative for like 15 years after that of I have ADHD, I have ADHD. I didn't actually know that I did until about 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, Eric and I, we went into this brain treatment clinic and we got EEGs, and they like gave us our brain scans on this piece of paper. And the guy did Eric's first, and he was like looking at Eric's brain. He's like, wow, dude, like your brain is like super optimal. Like you have a really healthy functioning brain. And I was just like, uh-oh. Mine's going to be the opposite. And he like kind of gives me mine. And he's like, so if there was a poster child for ADHD, you would be it. I was like, I already knew this. I already knew I had all the characteristics of ADHD. But what that did is it made me take, like, I don't label myself in anything. Like even like astrology and human design and all of that kind of stuff, like I really truly take that stuff with a grain of salt, because I really do believe like we're constantly evolving and growing, and that's a good frame to have. But if we become so addicted to labels and thinking that we are our energy type or astrology or whatever it is, we can kind of conform because we create our reality. So if there's a preconceived idea of who we are and what we should be doing, then we're going to conform to that. So I'm just always very careful of putting myself in boxes or labeling myself. But I saw the EEG and I was like, dang, that's intense. And again, a part of me already knew. And so what that shifted for me was, how can I really turn this into a superpower? How can I not be annoyed at myself for my forgetfulness, for making careless mistakes, for not being on time, for forgetting to text people back? Sorry, John. John and I laugh because I'm like, did I do better this time? He's like, you did better for you. My mental fatigue, brain fog, all sorts of things. And so what it did is it reframed my thinking in when I'm experiencing those symptoms, it means that I have missed the mark with how I'm showing up or how I'm running my energy in my body. So what's interesting about ADHD is there's times where I will be hyper focused and get thousands of things done in my workday. And then there's other days where my brain is so busy and foggy that it's so hard to even get the simplest of tasks done. So I began to really look at those two different types of days and ask myself, what are the things that I'm doing the 24 hours before that makes me have a really amazing day the next day? And what are the things that I'm doing that make it a flop or just so unproductive, and that just like feeling of being brain foggy and having like a very lethargic energy? And I started to really be a scientist of my own self. And I began to really test with supplements and various things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down in this episode the exact things that I did so that 95% of my days now, you guys, are spent in that very energetic, very productive, very present way. Now, the biggest thing that I'll say is what this required of me is to really take a look at everything that I'm doing in my life and ask myself, is this energy giving or energy depleting? The thing with ADHD is when you find something that's energy giving, it actually amplifies it and makes it even more energizing. You can focus even more. You're even more creative. You're even more of a visionary. But on the contrary, if something is energetically depleting, it is so freaking intense. Like it is so intense. And so I had to really look at my life and look at the things that I was doing and really learn to let go, like fully let go of the things that were draining me and causing my brain to become very brain foggy. So that was the first thing. So just doing an energetic audit. You guys have heard me talk about my energetic audit before. I really believe that the path to a more fulfilling life is tracking for energy depleting and energy giving. Now, the nuance here is it doesn't mean that that's easy, right? Not everything that is energy giving is easy. In fact, a lot of the things that I do on a daily basis are really, really hard, and they're hard in a good way. And there's a difference between hard that gets you a result and is energy giving versus hard that is manufactured struggle that actually doesn't get you a result and just leaves you feeling super depleted. So really having the awareness, the self-awareness to understand which is really powerful. All right, so let's talk some of the remedies that I have found to be really supportive. So this is going to come as no shock to anybody on this show, but dude, breath work is so good for ADHD. When we are doing conscious continual breathing, what we are doing is we're relaxing our survival strategies and we're quieting down the part of us that is very active and almost hypervigilant, almost like obsessive thinking. And for someone who has ADHD, that part of our brain can just go so quickly to the point where it just spins and spins and spins, and then it becomes this anxious loop where your brain is going so fast, it's going, and then it's kicking up energy in the body, and you're just sort of in this loop where you're like, I can't get out of this. And so what breath work does is it calms down our survival strategies. It allows our mind to really drop into our body and for us to get really present. Now, the beauty of that is when we drop into the present moment, we then begin to activate our flow state. And then when we're in that flow state, we're taking all of that energy that was misdirected and wasted in the mind, and we're then actually pouring it into our creations. So before I sit down to do any deep work or creative work or whatever it is, like right now, as I'm recording this podcast, I'm working on a really exciting offer, which I'm so excited to share with you guys. That's probably going to be out by the time this is released. But I do breath work. I'll do about 10 minutes of breath work. I'll really get my energy focused. I'll drop my mind into my body and I'll just stay so still in that moment. And then I'll create from that place of potency, that place of calm, that place of discernment. And there's so much power and energy in that moment. And then it just goes and 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 goes to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 6 hours. Like I really need to stop working and like go cook dinner. But once we really find the thing that our brain feels so satisfied in focusing on, and we really practice focus, we can just create. ADHD is a superpower. It is it's such a creative energy. It's effervescent. You can hold so many different narratives simultaneously. There's so much information that comes into your brain. And so when all that information is coming in and you are grounded, you are calm, you are powerful, then you can sift and sort that information, use the information that is necessary, and just release the rest. The second thing is lifting really heavy weights. This has been a total game changer. There's something around being fully present and doing something really hard that focuses all of your energy in the present moment. You guys are maybe seeing a theme here. And there's a stabilization that happens in the mind when the body is put under really healthy stress, i.e. lifting heavy weights. And so again, a lot of these practices that I do are intentionally dropping myself in the present moment. So my body is getting used to being able to hold the capacity of the present moment more often. If I don't have that stability and that groundedness in the body, then my mind is going to shoot into, again, a million different directions, which is going to be highly anxiety producing, and it's going to deplete all of my energy. So again, having a strong foundation of presence, being anchored in the body, being here and now, so that that part of you that is multidimensional and super creative and kind of all over the place can do that, but it doesn't fly off into the ethers. It's very much grounded in reality here and now. There's 3 supplements that I incorporate into my daily supplement intake, and that is omega-3s. Omega-3s are really, really good for the brain. It is brain food. So if you don't like eating fish, you can supplement with this, and it's amazing. Zinc is a mineral that plays a role in neurotransmitter function. So zinc is a really powerful supplement as well. You can take that once a day. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so definitely check with your naturopath or doctor or whatever before you take any of this advice. But these are just the things that I'm doing that have been super helpful. The last one is another mineral, magnesium. Obviously, magnesium is really good for sleep function. It also is a powerful mineral for the brain as well. So omega-3, zinc, and magnesium, those are all incredible supplements to take. And I notice a massive difference, especially having that magnesium closer to bedtime. Not only helps with sleep functionality, but also helps with the brain health as well. Now, this might be a little bit of a controversial one. Choose your own adventure. Again, this is only what has helped for me. I have found, so I remember, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I went to the doctor and I was like, you know what? I'm having trouble focusing. I'm having trouble paying attention. I'm not finding certain things interesting, blah, blah, blah. And I, was explaining all of my symptoms of ADHD. And before I could even explain the whole thing, she's already writing me a prescription for SSRI. I took the prescription for an SSRI, went into my car, ripped it up, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not taking that. What I have found as a helpful supplement is microdosing mushrooms, not every day, but 2 to 3 times a week, and not constantly. There's some months where I don't even use it at all. There's other times where I'll have it, like I said, 2 to 3 times a week. I have found this to be so helpful with ADHD because it really helps focus. Now, the other things that I was talking about, breath work, lifting, meditation, and any presence practice that drops you in the moment, obviously that is so helpful as well. But if that is something that you are, I'm not being like, hey, do mushrooms, but I'm just saying that's been a super helpful process for me of doing a tiny microdose. I'm not seeing past lives and aliens and shit like that. And it's not like a journey. It literally feels almost like nothing, but I can tell there's a little bit of something in my system that is focusing my energy on the present moment. So again, I'm not a doctor. Choose your own adventure. This is your body, your life, not mine, but I'm just sharing my experience. For someone who does have ADHD, I have found this to be incredibly supportive. So I highly resisted this next tip. Just ask Eric. Anytime he said the S word, I was like, get away with the S word. What is that S word, you might ask? Systems. Eric's got systems on systems on systems for everything. And when we first started dating, he's like, babe, we should have a system for that. I'm like, stop saying the S word, because I'm like, I want to be free. I want to flow. I want to be feminine. However, systems create flow. Structure creates flow. And so now I am pro systems, yes, put a system up in my something. I was going to say butt. Put a system up in my butt. Don't do that. Put a system in my life. I will love you for it. Here's the thing. If I can systemize something, it means I don't have to think about it. It means I don't have that tab open. It means I'm not so diffuse in my awareness. I can focus on the things that are most important. So structure creates flow. What are some of the systems that you have? So I'm going to share with you some of ours. You guys have obviously heard Eric and I talk about the systems we have in our relationship, right? So date night on Thursdays, coffee dates on Sundays. We do quarterly relationship retreats. Those are the systems we have for our relationship. So how does that help with my ADHD? Well, if I'm spinning on something in our relationship, then I have a system in order to be like, hey, part of my brain, part of my body, we got a system for that. We're going to talk about that on Sunday, or we're going to address that on date night, or whatever it is. And so it allows my brain to go, okay, and calm down so I can we're always optimizing for the present moment because that's where our power is, right? Number 2, systems at home, cleaning systems, laundry systems, like just household systems. If anything is feeling like overwhelming, it probably tells you just don't have the right system in place in order to manage that thing. And yes, systems take a little bit of time to get up and running in your house, and you need communication with the person that you're living with, obviously. But as soon as you have that system in place, it removes a lot of the guessing. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And if you're not wasting mental bandwidth, then it's not activating your ADHD as much. So just allow yourself to systemize anything that feels chaotic in your life. And I promise you're going to free up so much bandwidth and so much energy just by creating the simplest of systems for daily life. All right, we're going to flow through 10 of my favorite benefits of ADHD. Someone asked me a little while ago, they were like, hey, if you could have this or not have this, what would you choose? I'm like, I would definitely have this at this point. Now, ask me 10 years ago and I'd be like, this is the most annoying thing ever. But again, because I've used what I'm teaching you in this podcast, it's actually created so much energy in my life. And I don't think I would be the person I am today and be able to create the things that I create and do what I do today if I didn't have this superpower, which is ADHD. So firstly, creativity. You guys, I can create so much shit in such a short amount of time. It's actually wild. I was sharing about the new offer that I have coming out, and I'm collaborating with a dear friend of mine, and she just looks at me and she's like, I don't know how you're doing that, but like, just keep going. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. Cause there's so much information that comes into my brain and it just gets channeled into work. And it's so fun to do that. And it's so fun to be in that place. So that's the biggest thing. I talked about this already, but there's the duality of the hyperfocus and the not focus at all. When the ADHD brain is in hyperfocus, it is so powerful. It is so productive. There's so much I can get done in such a short amount of time, like to the point where I can do weeks of work in one day. And it feels so fun to do it. It feels so exciting to do it. And so there's this superpower that gets unlocked where it's just hyper creativity, like go, 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 go. And it feels so exciting. And I'm like, wow, I like got all of my stuff done. And now I have more spaciousness to create. Individuals with ADHD are often a lot more energetic and enthusiastic than the majority. And so I really believe that energy is everything. And if I can maintain that energy and I can channel that energy, I can pour that into so many things, which have such a ripple effect. I definitely have a natural enthusiasm for life. That's just, whether that's the ADHD or not, I don't know, but that's definitely a benefit of just being a highly energetic person. Eric said in our podcast that from the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I go to bed, I am very energetic. And I really believe, yes, the ADHD, but also learning to work with my ADHD allows me to have those higher energetic levels. I've noticed that my problem solving and my ability to think quickly on my feet is very, very, very sharp, especially when I'm in those modes of hyperfocus. If I'm at a leadership meeting at pause and there's a lot of decisions that need to get done or made in a short amount of time, I have the ability to just like, I don't spin on it. It's just like, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is it. There's a mental clarity and a mental sharpness. And with ADHD, you can hold so many narratives simultaneously and it's all right here. So you can hold all of this information and then have the potency to go, this is the right answer, or this is what I think is the right answer. I'm not saying I'm right all the time. Absolutely not. But it's that decisive decision-making is very clear in the moment. Because of the sensitivity of ADHD, people with ADHD, this has been proven in tracked and research, are more empathetic and sensitive. So my ability to relate to other people, my ability to feel their emotionality, there is a higher intuitive nature with people who have ADHD. And again, these superpowers really get unlocked when you know how to work with it, because I will say when I didn't know how to work with it, it would kind of go in the opposite direction where I didn't feel as intuitive because again, I wasn't grounded, my brain was spinning, I was all over the place. But when I really learned to work with it, then I became highly empathetic, very sensitive, very intuitive, and that serves me so much in my business. It's been researched as well, and I can put the links to these articles in the show notes of this podcast, but people with ADHD are more likely to handle the ups and downs of life. They're more resilient, if you will. I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD. I'm sure there's hundreds of you listening to this podcast who resonate with that, right? I think the superpowers of ADHD are very complementary to being a very successful entrepreneur. And so there's a level of resilience that is required in entrepreneurship because you kind of just get your shit kicked out of you every now and then. And to most people, that would be detrimental and that would be the end of the road for them. But they're, again, because of the ability to hold multiple narratives simultaneously, that is happening at the same time your brain is already in a future reality where you're like, but over here, it's prosperous and it's working out. And so that helps people who are entrepreneurial and who do take risks. They are naturally more resilient to a lot of the challenges and can handle a lot more uncertainty than potentially someone who doesn't have this condition. All right, you guys. All right. That is a wrap on the ADHD episode. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a ton of value out of it. Again, going back to my first tip on ADHD, I know this is not a shot coming from me because I'm obsessed with breathwork, but breathwork is such a catalyst to calming down the brain, opening up the heart, dropping in the moment. And so don't forget that those states of peace and calm are on the other side of a breath. If you're not yet on the Pause Breathwork app, you can try out the free 14-day trial on iOS or Android. So be sure to sign up for that. Use breathwork on a daily basis. What you're really doing when you do that is you're practicing the muscle of focus. You're practicing the muscle of being present. And that's been such a game changer for me. Such a game changer. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.